Good morning and welcome to Passion Week, day number 6. This is Holy Saturday, as we call it. This, of course, being in between Friday and Sunday. Good Friday, the day where Jesus goes to the cross and he dies for our sins. He pays the ultimate price for us and he dies. This day, Holy Saturday, is a day of tension and waiting, where the disciples, at least, are in panic and confusion and great sorrow. And so this is a good opportunity for us, for all of us, to also spend this time in waiting and spend this time in looking to the Lord and asking him for answers and be willing to hear whatever the Lord has to say. This is going to be the final Devo for this Passion Week series, because tomorrow is Resurrection or Easter Sunday, and we're going to have so many opportunities to worship on this day, and so much content to take advantage of. And so this is going to be the final in the series, but let's go ahead and jump into our passages for today. Starting with Luke 23. Verse 54, it says, "It was the day of preparation, and the Sabbath was beginning. The women who had come with him from Galilee followed and saw the tomb and how his body was laid. Then they returned and prepared spices and ointments. On the Sabbath they rested according to the commandment." Our next verse comes from Luke 24:15, and it says, "While they were talking and discussing together, Jesus himself drew near and went with them." And our final verse, John 20:19. "On the evening of that day, the first day of the week, the doors being locked where the disciples were for fear of the Jews, Jesus came and stood among them and said to them, 'Peace be with you.'" I share these three passages because the first one gives us a sense of what needed to be done. Jesus' body hadn't been fully prepared for burial. It seems as though it was a hasty job that was done. There was a linen that was put over him, but usually it's a much more involved process. You need spices and ointments to keep the body from decaying as rapidly, and also to have it smell nice as it is decaying. And so that's something that wasn't able to be finished. And so the women we see, they're having to pause that job here on the Holy Saturday. And that's what we see the women doing on Sunday. They're going to bring those spices to the tomb and complete that job, right? The second verse, it shows us, let me put it up right here. It shows us there's great discussion going on about the death of Jesus. You'd imagine that people are asking, was he who he said he was? What was all that happened with the curtain being torn in two and the earthquake? What do we make of all of this? And some of the disciples, you'd imagine, like Peter and others, maybe they're discussing what happened as they had denied Jesus and betrayed him and ran. But my feeling is that for the most part, as we see here in John 20:19, we see the disciples being locked behind a closed door, and they're afraid. I believe they're dejected. They're feeling like failures. They're feeling all sorts of emotions. They just lost their precious rabbi, the one that they had been following for these years. And so there's a range of emotions that they're feeling as they're locked behind that door. We do see Jesus in these two verses appear to them, and I don't want to focus on that right now because you're going to have time to do that tomorrow. But on this day, we can focus on the fear of the disciples. We can focus on their waiting and wondering and discussing. And so these are the prayer topics for today. Number 1 is to wait on God and trust his word. Number 2 is to pray against unbelief in your heart. And number 3 is to pray for a new fire and conviction to follow Jesus. We have a great opportunity right now to spend this day in waiting. Not as though we're waiting for Jesus to resurrect. He's already done that, and he's already finished and completed the work that he started throughout his ministry, and he started on the cross on Good Friday. But what we can do today is have a heart and a posture of waiting before the Lord, because I'm sure for all of us, there's a lot of questions we have. God, when is this quarantine going to finish? God, what's going to happen with my job? God, what's going to happen with my school? There's a lot of questions. And so to have a heart that can wait and a heart that will trust his word. And secondly, to pray against unbelief in your heart. Just as at this time, I'd imagine some of the disciples were dealing with unbelief of what they experienced and what they saw for those 3 years. Maybe they had imagined the whole thing. Maybe they were in some kind of state of delirium. We have to identify the unbelief in our heart, and we have to combat it. We have to ask the Lord to expose it and combat it with truth. And lastly, to pray for a new fire and conviction to follow Jesus this Passion Week. As we emerge from this time and go into the rest of this quarantine, my heart's prayer is that we would have a new passion for Jesus. That's why this week is called Passion. Yes, it's the passion of Jesus, but it's also about your passion for Jesus. And so, is Jesus your number one? Is he worth dying for today? Is he worth laying things down and letting go of fear and anxiety and being able to move forward into the future with whatever God has in store for you? And so that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey to the cross. And may you have a blessed Resurrection Sunday. Be blessed, and let's together follow the Lord and make sure that we have a great passion for him that is displayed in our life. God bless you. I love you. Peace.